Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for the WSBA Virtual Speaker Series. We have a virtual speaker every single month, and it is so we can bring their knowledge and wisdom and perspective to other people. We love to be that platform, and we're extra excited whenever it is one of our members. Gail is one of our members. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Gail.
Thank you very much, Megan.
So I am grateful to know Gail beyond WSBA and beyond this event. I've known Gail for a couple of years now, and she is one of those people that once they're in your life, you're so grateful they're there, and you kind of wonder what life was like before them. So what Gail has been doing and what she's doing now that interests me a lot, and we have some great conversations about it, is how ADHD is the entrepreneur's superpower. And she's going to talk to us tonight about how to make it, how to harness it to be that superpower that it is capable of being. So I will turn it over to Gail to regale us with the amazing knowledge that she is going to share.
Boom, boom. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Megan. At first, I thought you said once she's in your life, you can't get rid of her. But with that, yes, I am very honored to be here, and thank you for having me today. I'm going to get rid of you guys because you guys are going to distract me. I'm just going to say that. Let me start out by saying a couple of things that came up today about ADHD. If I don't look at you, I want you to make sure that you don't misunderstand me and thinking that I'm like off somewhere else. There's three things that how you can tell an ADHD person is truly engaging with you. Number one, they don't look at you. They look past you, they look over here, they look over there, which is usually you're distracting me, so I'm going to look off to the side so you don't distract me with your wonderful face. And at the same time, I'm gonna see what you're saying in my mind. Number two, they turn everything around to talk about themselves. And that's because they want to feedback something that they know to you to make sure that what they're understanding is what you're trying to say. And number three, they interrupt you. Now, as I remember, all my life, I was told that those three things say that you are not paying attention to them. And I only bring those up to let you know that there's a lot of things that we do with ADHD that makes it seem like we're not there. But once you know that they are actually telling you that I'm listening and I'm engaged and I'm interested. So bear with me and we'll go on. All right, so today we're going to talk about the messy, brilliant, and sometimes hilarious truths about ADHD and entrepreneurship and how these fast, creative brains of ours, which are just as God designed them, are capable of incredible things. Now, once we learn to work with them is the key, because if we don't learn to work with them, we're going to spend our time instead of managing to we're going to wrestle with them. Now, whether it's your brain, your spouse's brain, your kid's brain, or even the people you lead and hire, understanding this wiring changes everything. So I encourage you to think about others you know as we go through this today. All right. Well,
Gail, do you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Oh, did I? I did not. Yes, I do, Megan. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I shared it fast, I unshared it fast, and then I didn't share it fast. All right. Can you guys see now? All right. So if you've ever bought a planner on Monday and lost it by Wednesday, you're in good company. Now, a lot of women with ADHD think that they're the only ones struggling behind the scenes. But the truth is you're not. In fact, you're just like me. Now, I've always joked with my friends that if you want to find my ADHD out in the wild, just follow the trail of abandoned planners. You see, there was a season when every time I felt behind, I went out and bought a new planner. They were beautiful. Gold ones, gold spirals, sparklies, motivational quotes, fresh promise every day. And I'd fill out 2, 3, sometimes 4 pages, sometimes none, right? And then it would quietly disappear into what I lovingly call the planner graveyard. And for a long time, I interpreted that to mean that I was inconsistent. I was irresponsible, even that I was immature. But the truth I eventually learned is this: I wasn't failing. I was fighting a system that wasn't built for how my brain works. Once I stopped judging myself and started understanding myself, everything changed. Now, you're going to hear that statement a lot. Everything changed. And it's not because I don't have a vocabulary. It's because when these triggers hit, everything changes. So, what I found was I found hope, I found peace, and I finally stopped buying planners like they were life preservers because I realized I wasn't drowning. I was just unsupported. And here's the hopeful part: once you understand your brain, you can stop judging yourself too, and you can start building smarter. Now let's take a peek under the hood, because this is where the chaos starts. Like, did you know? Oh, I just said that, didn't I? I started out with the fact that I don't make eye contact. That's a prompt I have here for me that I wanted to talk about. So if you ever find yourself where you do things early, or you get excited, or you turn around and you repeat what you're saying, that's all part of ADHD. So have heart. We're going to peek under the hood, and we're going to figure out how fast that brain really works and what it's good for. Now, let me tell you something about ADHD and the brain. You are not motivated by routine at all. Your brain literally comes alive when something is interesting, when it's urgent or emotionally important. Now, I had a client before, Sarah, who once confessed to me that she could spend hours color coding every single folder on her desktop. She color coded it by alphabet, by urgency, even what she called emotional temperature, and I still don't know what that means. But when she sat down to answer 2 simple emails, her brain just froze. She told me it was like trying to lift a 500-pound weight with a noodle. And she immediately went to where a lot of us go, into shame. Why can I spend hours organizing stupid folders, but I can't answer 2 emails? What's wrong with me? She and I talked about it, and we broke down how ADHD motivation actually works. There's interest, there's novelty, there's urgency, dopamine, before you can ever get to action. She just stared at me with her tears in her eyes and said, "So I'm not broken? I've just been working against my wiring?" Which is what it was. That moment gave her back something she didn't even realize she had lost: her compassion for herself. And once the shame lifted, everything changed. She regained her peace. She stopped calling herself lazy. She stopped wasting hours spiraling into shame. And she stopped fighting her brain. Once that shame was gone, she had access to her creativity again. She started building systems that fit her when she was running her business, not systems that she thought she should use because everybody else was. And that's when she told me, "I feel like I got my life back and I'm not drowning anymore." That's what happens when we understand our wiring. We trade self-judgment for self-leadership, and everything gets lighter. Now, this alone brings so much hope. You need to understand you're not lazy. You're wired differently. You know, Megan and I have had this conversation lots. And that's that ADHD isn't a new thing. We just live in a world that stopped valuing the things that those of us with ADHD are naturally good at. So if we go back hundreds or thousands of years before we became city dwellers with cubicles and calendars, and people were given roles based on their education and not on their instinctive strengths, you know, the ones who could hyperfocus, guess what they did? They were the people whose attention locked in when danger or movement hit. So they were picked as the night watchers. They were the protectors who could stay alert long after everyone else fell asleep. They were the ones who made lightning fast decisions. They were the ones that we would put out there as hunters, and warriors because they could respond instantly to a threat or an opportunity. The ones with great big ideas, well, guess what? They were the explorers, the scouts, the innovators, people who found paths where no solutions were before, and before anybody else even thought it was possible. In that world, these brains were not too much, too fast, too distracted. Really quick, in the chat, if you've ever felt, if anyone has ever told you you're too much, calm down, let's not get so emotional. Let's not, you're getting really distracted. If any of those is something you've experienced, just drop me in the chat really quick. Thanks. So the thing about these people is that they were essential. They were essential. And ADHD is not good or bad. It's simply different. And in that different era, these same traits were the very reason the village survived. Now, we don't live in that world anymore, but you still have those strengths. And when you learn to work with your wiring instead of judging it, you rediscover the power God placed there on purpose. All right. How many people in here, raise hands, have ever heard your ADHD is your entrepreneur superpower? I have. And then they leave it at that. And then they walk away and they don't really tell you how it is. Well, let me tell you, you actually have superpowers as an entrepreneur. You think in patterns, you problem solve really quick. You can hyper focus like a machine when something matters. I worked with this gal named Tanya who kept calling herself a professional starter. She was great at ideas, terrible at finishing. And she truly believed that something was wrong with her. And she kept trying to fix it. But when she and I looked deeper, I could see what she couldn't see. And that's what was that she had a gift. You see, she could walk into a room or a business or a challenge and instantly see solutions that no one else had spotted. Patterns just lit up for her. It was like they had a shining spotlight on them. And when she realized that this speed, creativity, and insight weren't flaws, when she saw that they were actually her entrepreneurial superpower, she broke down crying. All we had to do was create a support system. And then she knew that she'd been spending her whole life trying to fix the very thing God meant to use. You see, once she had a support system, it shifted her, not just in her business, but in the way she saw herself. She went from self-doubt to confident leadership because she finally understood her strength. And you know what? One of those strengths was she got finishers to walk along beside her. It's as simple as that. So now, let me say there are two sides to everything, and ADHD is no different. It does come with superpowers, but those same superpowers can become debilitating weaknesses if you don't support them. When we don't have systems that support our fast brain, things fall through the cracks. Now, it's not because you're incapable, but it's because your brain has more tabs open than the browser can handle. Here's an interesting question. How many of you have a whole bunch of tabs open on your browser at any given time? Do me a favor, just drop into the chat approximately how many tabs you have open at any one time. Just take a guess, make an average. Well, the other day I was talking to one of my best friends, and she told me that the day before she and I talked, she had 3 browsers open, and each of them had about 18 tabs. That's 54 tabs open. Plus, that's not even counting her applications and her files and her documents. And what she said to me is Gail, that's exactly how my brain feels. Like every tab is screaming for attention at the same time. Now, that morning, she was trying to work on a proposal, but every time she clicked into the document, another thought popped up. Well, what came with another thought? Another app. Oh, I need to email that client. I forgot to order more inventory. I should update that spreadsheet. I have to follow up with that person. another tab, another tab, another tab, another app, another tab, right? Until eventually, like a computer, she just froze. She said, my brain didn't say focus, it said shut down. And like so many of us with ADHD, and I've said this before too, she made it personal. She made it mean something about her character. I'm irresponsible. I should be able to judge this. I'm failing. I'm a failure. But she wasn't a failure. She wasn't a failure. She was just overwhelmed. Her brain was drowning in open loops with nowhere to land. Her system wasn't supporting her. Part of that system was what she was telling herself. But as she and I worked together, she realized that she isn't a moral failure. She was in neurological overload. She didn't need more willpower. She didn't need fewer open tabs. She needed a system to hold them for her. And that's what the coaching that she and I worked together on did. It opened the door for her to do her best work with her ADHD brain, not against it, including learning how to tell herself different stories. So entrepreneurship has a way of making ADHD more visible. It brings the strengths forward, but it also highlights the struggles. Now, I'm going to tell you, I consider that exposure a blessing, because once I can truly see my wiring, once you can truly see your wiring, you're finally going to know what's supporting you, but you're also going to know where God is inviting you to build new support to support you better. And this is the turning point. It isn't fixing yourself. It's finally giving your brain what it's been asking for. The right systems that don't restrict you, they free you. And when your world is set up supporting your wiring, you get something in return. You get your clarity back. You get your confidence back. And hope comes back. So this is, for most of us, this is where everything really starts to shift in permanence. Because let me tell you, your brilliance isn't the issue. I mean, Megan's brilliant. Everybody that I know here, I think, is brilliant. You have everything you need, but the brilliance needs structure to grow. And once the chaos settles down and the support is there, you finally have space to rise. Because you see, your brilliance was meant to scale. So let me wait here a second. Let me say that again. Your brilliance was meant to scale. Don't ever forget that. You were meant to scale. Your brilliance was meant to scale. You were created to rise. And that means stepping into a framework that supports your wiring, honors your speed, and gives your mind room to breathe. Let me show you a little bit about what that might look like. I love frameworks. And this is the framework I use to change from understanding into real change. Now, step one is awareness. Shows you what's happening. Alignment honors how God wired you. Automation gives you the brain to support your brain, the support that it's begging for. Together, these three steps bring back order, peace, momentum into your life. So let's take a look at awareness. There's some things you need to know, like when your peak focus times are. What are your emotional triggers? What are your energy patterns? If you can know these and you're aware of these, well, then you can stop working against them. Being aware of your wiring is the beginning of freedom. So I'm going to tell you about Emily. When she came to me and she said, I don't understand why I can work for 8 hours straight on something, but avoid something simple for days. Days! How many here? How many here? If it's simple, you don't do it, right? If it's boring, it's going to sit there. Yeah. Well, she was convinced she had a discipline problem. And the world was helping her think that. Yeah, you just got to get more discipline. But once she learned how her ADHD brain actually worked, with her rhythms, her dopamine, her triggers. She just kind of looked at me and she said, I'm not broken. I just didn't understand myself. Well, that's awareness. Now, you don't need to have the perfect routine. You need one that fits your personality, your season in life, and your brain. And you know what? Those change throughout your life. When the systems fit your wiring, everything gets easier. Let me get back to Emily. Once Emily understood her brain, the guilt lifted, and we could finally build systems that support her and that fit her lifestyle. She spent years forcing herself into apps and routines that everybody else said should work for her. But when she switched to a manual visual system with color, movement, things that matched her actual artistic brain, she says, this feels like my mind, but it's on the outside. Well, that's alignment. Now, this is where my inner tech nerd comes out. So automation, I want to say about it first is it isn't about replacing your creativity. It's about protecting it. You see, automation frees your brain to do what it does best. By the time we got to automation with Emily, she had started to feel hopeful again. So what we did is we automated her scheduling, her reminders, and content drafts using simple integrated AI-powered tools. She'd been working for him for about a week when she came up to me and she said, I didn't realize, Gail, how much my brain was carrying until I no longer had to carry it. And that's automation, letting tools and structure hold what your brain doesn't need to hold. How many people think that they have information leaking out of their brain from time to time? Drop the word leak into the chat, if you would. Because I'll tell you, that's how I feel. Sometimes my brain is so full, it just can't hold it anymore, so it's going to leak out. So I've said hope a couple of times today, and I want you to understand that that really is the foundation of shifting for the better. You see, confidence doesn't return when you work harder. It returns when you finally understand why your brain works the way it does, and that's the hope. The hope lives in understanding, not in perfection. And once you see yourself clearly, without judgment, everything's going to get lighter. So here's the deal. I'm willing to go out on a limb and suggest that for many of us, if not all of us, the following are all true. You're going to find that one system that works beats 10 apps that you downloaded during a hyper-focus sprint and never opened again. I think 10 is sometimes saying it gently. Visual beats text because your brain loves shiny things, things it can see. And perfection, yeah, that's where good ideas go to die. Progress is where the magic happens, not perfection. You see, when your world is steady, your nervous system settles. And that's when creativity finally has a safe place to come out and play. Now, here's the paradox of ADHD. We love structure. We also rebel against it. Who's a rebel? I'm a rebel. I know Megan's a rebel. But why do we rebel against it? Well, we do so because much of the time, the structure that's been handed to us, oftentimes by neurotypical people, whatever that is, but that structure has been constricting or feels punishing. But the right structure, the kind that matches your wiring, doesn't cage you in. It creates safety. It calms your brain. In truth, it gives your brilliance room to breathe. I want to say this, and I want you to hear, if you don't hear anything else today, you were never the problem. The lack of tailored support was. Once you understand your wiring, again, everything changes. And remember, hope comes from understanding, not perfection. So we get to hope right away. Now, I have a friend I used to work with named Jen. She was a West Point grad, former Army officer. And she came to me and she was going, I don't understand it. I'm just completely inconsistent. I can't stick to anything. I'm all over the place. And she was really afraid that she was in the wrong job. But when she and I sat together and mapped out her behavior, she wasn't inconsistent. She was responsive. You see, Jen could adapt quickly, adjust creatively, and shifted course when the clients needed something different. In truth, her flexibility was actually her genius, but she'd been taught to see it as a flaw. When she realized that, she didn't even say it, she whispered it. I've spent my whole life apologizing for who I am. Now I'm going to tell you that moment, it may not have been in a church, but for me, it was holy. I could feel the freedom in her. I could see it in her face. And that reframe restored her confidence and it restored her calling. Your brain is powerful and purposeful. You don't need to become someone else. You simply need support that works with who you already are. Allow your brilliance to shine through and grab that unstoppable life. I alluded to this before, but let me say it plainly here. As you go through changes in your life, that support that you need is going to change. What your brain desires is going to change. So don't ever think that, well, it used to work, but it's not working now. That's not a flaw. That's not a failure. That just simply means you're growing. You're evolving. You're not the same person today you were 4 years ago. Brilliance plus alignment will get you an unstoppable life. So what's the next step? Well, before I close, I want to tell you, here's the easiest way to connect with me. If you want support, if you want clarity, or if you just want to talk this through, something I said, trigger something, do me a favor, drop the word ready in the chat, or simply use the QR code and book a free 20-minute consultation with me. Either one works. Drop ready in the chat or use the QR code, and I'll take care of the rest. Matter of fact, if you drop ready in the chat, I'll just ask Megan to, everybody who drops ready in the chat, to give me their email addresses, and I'll email you and I'll set up a time for you. Now, I want to take just a minute and I want to tell you why this matters to me so much. You see, I went 62 years not knowing that I had ADHD. 62 years without understanding why my brain worked the way it did. 62 years of feeling indifferent, inferior, wondering why some things felt effortless and others felt impossible. Why I could build these big dreams and these big systems, but struggle with the smallest tasks. Why was I very successful in my career, but always on the verge of or recovering from burnout? When I finally found out what ADHD really is and what it means, when I finally understood that God wired me this way on purpose, guess what? Everything changed. My life made sense. My heart softened towards myself. And I felt this deep calling to help other women find the same peace and clarity without waiting decades like I did. Now, here's the thing. This talk isn't about selling you something or convincing you to work with me. If working with me is the right next step, wonderful, great, love it. But if not, trust me, I have other resources, other tools, trusted colleagues I'm happy to point you to. because what matters most is that you get the right support for you. No pressure, no harm, no foul. Just do the next right step for you. Maybe it's the next right step for your child, and you want to talk about it. Now, I am so excited for this opportunity to walk beside you to help you understand your wiring, your child's, your spouse's, your employees, whatever. Because once you see it clearly, compassion comes in, hope comes in, and life gets lighter. Now, for those of you who are members of WSBA, as a thank you, I want to tell you that all WSBA members receive 20% off of any of my coaching packages if you chose to take the next step with me. I can't promise it for any other coach, but for me. But what about those of you who haven't yet taken the leap to become a member? First off, Megan's going to help you become a member. But secondly, if you're not a member, or if you're a man, you're not going to become part of the Women's Small Business Association. You're going to get 10% off just for being here on this call and exploring WSBA. So again, if today hit home for you, drop ready in the chat or scan the QR code. And let's take the next right step together. Can't wait to meet you on this journey. All right. If we have a little time yet, and I believe we do, I was right about 30 minutes. I would like to open this up. Happy to take questions, big ones, small ones. Is it just me ones? That's part of where we get to make this real. And listen, if your question pops into your head tonight at 11:37 p.m. because ADHD, you can still reach me. My email, phone number for text, I'm not going to answer at 11:37 at night. But and the QR code are right here. Use whatever works for your brain. No judgment. So, what are you curious about? Hey, Stephanie, I didn't get you called back. Somebody, Sandra, kept me on the call too long.
So while they are thinking about the question they're going to ask, or the fire emoji they're going to drop, because, oh no, you know what? They should do the exploded brain emoji, because every time, as you mentioned, you and I have had these conversations, I've got a lot of feelings about how ADHD is portrayed and the words people use around it. And I thank you so much for the way that you did this, because people need to understand that it is a superpower, just like not having ADHD is a superpower in the right context, in the right framework. And there's a continuum of ways to think about stuff, and ways to think, right? Ways to process, ways to act, ways to action. It's not this or this. It's like all of these. And just learning how you do it for you and doing it the right way for you makes such a difference. So I'm so grateful that this is the path that you went down, and this is where you spend your time helping people do this, because you change lives. And you're going to change so many lives doing this. So the question that I have is, when for you went from, this is so frustrating, why are these things so frustrating, to, oh, now I understand, because it sounded like you were like, once I got diagnosed with ADHD, now it wasn't this problem that I had, it was this opportunity I could harness. Would that be was it really fast, or did it take you a little while to shift your mindset?
Oh, it took me a while. And I did it on my own in a lot of ways. I mean, trust me, I had Megan and a few others. But so in all honesty, when I found out I was going through a transition in my life, I was transitioning from working full-time with the federal government to focusing more on my business. And my business is helping businesses with their processes and with growth and that type of thing. And that's what I did for the federal government for years. But I kind of hit a wall. I hit a burnout, and it took a long time to recover. And I found that one of the reasons I was having that burnout is because I wasn't fully aligned and I was taking a lot of energy from myself. And for those of you who don't understand, with ADHD, you do not properly generate dopamine, you do not properly maintain dopamine, and you do not properly use dopamine. You don't make enough and you use too much. Uh, and and that's a problem. People call us lazy or a procrastinator because you don't get stuff started. I mean, how many people beat the dryer to being done? I don't know about you, but I leave it in so long I have to rewash it. You know, um, so you know we're not procrastinators. It's just there's no dopamine in that for me. I don't like to pull clothes out of the dryer and fold them. So I will do everything I can to avoid it. But once I realized that that was because I have ADHD, well, now I can kind of plan it. I look, I am the queen of tricking myself. How long did it take me to put my clothes away last time? 7 minutes. Can I beat that record this time? And I make it a game. You know, every once in a while, I'll call Megan, and I'll talk to Megan, but I won't tell her that the reason I called is because I needed to fold my clothes. And I'll fold them if I'm on the phone with Megan, but I won't if I'm not, So, hey, Stephanie, everybody else, close their ears for a minute. I love you. Okay, sorry, I'm back. I have not seen that face for a long time. So yeah, it was not fast. It was not easy, but it gave me a place to start. And I have learned also the power of coaching. Coaching doesn't mean that you're not good. It doesn't mean anything other than you need someone else to take a look and see your blind spots. Everybody here a sports fan? I would think that most people would say, let me think of someone who's still alive. LeBron James. Okay. LeBron James was very good, is very good at his sport. Did you know but LeBron James has a personal coach? Not his coach from his team, but he has a coach that coaches him in his skills. Because that guy can sometimes go, hey, dude, I don't know what your problem is. When you're throwing a free throw, you're dropping your shoulder. Well, he didn't know he was dropping his shoulder. He needed a coach to point it out. Did you know that Steve Jobs had a coach that coached him in business? Did you know that Bill Clinton had a coach? I mean, these people who are successful understand that they have to have coaches. I have understood that I need a coach. So occasionally when I'm having problems, I find a coach and say, what are some ideas for how I can get past this challenge? Which is why I don't care if you coach with me or if you coach with someone else. If you need a coach, let's get you a coach. Let's get you to be the best you can be, the best you that you can be. I think Lynn had a question, and I specifically chose not to answer that question during this because I wanted Lynn to be able to ask it. Lynn, you were asking about medicine. You need to pull yourself off mute.
I'd like to know what you think about medicine for ADHD, or even coffee, cola, stimulants, etc.
So yeah, everybody who has ADHD presents differently. And I would no sooner tell someone not to use medication than I would tell a diabetic not to take insulin. Now, is it true that some people can control their sugar levels by changing their eating behavior? Yes.
Mhm.
Should that be a decision a coach makes? No. That's a decision between you and your doctor. But taking insulin, does that mean you can now go out and eat all the sugar you want? No. The same thing holds true with ADHD. Some people need medication. Sometimes they need it the rest of their lives. Sometimes they need it until they build in their support structure. And that's, again, something that you're going to have to work with your doctor. Now, as a coach, I will work as closely with your doctor and your therapist as you allow me to, because none of those are things that do the other. They're all important. They're all part of it. So you have your physician for your blood chemistry and and things like that. You have a therapist who helps you work through the trauma of either being diagnosed, because in some cultures it's traumatizing to be diagnosed, or maybe you were that kid who made everybody else run away and you had no friends, and so you need therapy, right? So all of this is fine for that. But who's going to help you figure out how to change your environment to work well for you? That's your coach, right? So we all have a different purpose. I believe that there are many of us that need medication. Now, I will tell you, I'm trying medication. I haven't found the one that works yet, but I'm trying it, because being a single person and a solopreneur, when and if I get into that freeze state, I don't do well at reaching out to other people. And I know this about me. So I am looking at medication. Like I said, I haven't found it yet. And I have this really great team of people around me that just kick me into gear. Thank you, HCL folks, Stephanie, Megan. But yes, I think medication has its place. It's not for everybody, but it is for many. Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I've had some people who say that when they get medicated, they lose their creativity. And I'm just wondering whether you've seen that with people.
I haven't seen it so much in the ADHD people, but I have seen it in people I've known in the past who dealt with depression. And so it doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't surprise me. As a matter of fact, what I have heard from people with ADHD is saying things like, "You mean this is what it's like to think like a normal person? This is the last time I'm taking medication," because they felt so focused and they were able to get so much done. But
Mhm.
yeah, they didn't feel like themselves.
Mhm.
And again, so it may be, and Lynn, can I share a little bit about you and what you do? Okay.
Sure.
All right. Lynn um, is a therapist, right?
Mhm.
Here, doctor, what therapist, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
But so let's say that you have someone who has some sort of medication that they're taking. A couple of things can be. It can be that the medication is wrong. It can be that the prescription strength is wrong, but it could also be that they just need to take it long enough to
Mhm.
realize what normal or what they should feel like as a baseline.
Mhm.
Normal, I shouldn't use that word because that makes Megan cringe. But yeah, to what their baseline should be. Now, if they don't feel any different at all, then it's probably not doing anything.
Mhm.
But um, I will say this one other thing about medication. I've heard a lot of people also say, "I don't want to get addicted." Um, Most people that I have talked to who take medication that are ADHD struggle with remembering to take their medication. And I don't know about anybody who has an addiction. Everybody I know that has an addiction, they do not forget to take their addictive drug. So I'm not worried about people on ADHD medicine getting addicted. But yeah, I mean, and if they don't like the way it feels, work with their doctor to get what does feel right. Work with their therapist. Does that answer your question,
It does. Thank
Lynn?
you.
You bet. Cheryl.
Hey, so my son has ADHD and so do I. And I refused to put him on medication as a child and instead I took all sugar diet. And I've noticed like with myself, if I'm on a strict regime of low carbs and no sugars, then my focus changes. I still have to do 10 things at once. That's how my brain likes to work. But I don't have the meltdowns or the overwhelm if I'm eating properly. And so I'm just putting that out there because I don't know, I've seen a lot of people that have had physical things that follow them through their life from taking medicine long-term for ADHD. So
Yeah.
I prefer the nutritional route and heavy prayer.
Mhm.
I do not blame you on that, Cheryl, at all. And I realize that Lynn asked about coffee and other things. I think that's all in that same boat, right?
Yeah.
I had to go a year without coffee. A year, folks. I went a year without coffee. I do not go without coffee anymore. But I went a year without caffeine. And let me tell you, it was not pretty.
Caffeine seems to help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes that's all it takes is a little bit of caffeine.
Mhm.
Do you drink sodas, Cheryl, or did you at one time?
Years ago, like decades ago. And what I actually, interestingly, I found that probably 25 years ago, I switched from having a Pepsi every now and then to a diet. And I was struggling with mood and and emotion and complete shutdown of my system. And I'm like, what the heck? And then I went down the rabbit hole, found out that aspartame is worse than sugar for
Yeah.
all these things, ADHD. So I cut that immediately. And within 3 days, I was like, I'm out again. Yeah.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, they have found that the carbonation in our mouth actually has a soothing effect.
Yes.
So I was going to say, if you have those carbonate your water machines.
I have carbonated sodas that every now and then I'll sit down and the funny thing about it is I can't have just one. I have to have two of them because,
Right.
it's funny, but yeah.
So
Not a paid advertisement. I have not been a soda drinker for decades. Like
Right.
at one point I would have maybe 3 in a year.
Mhm.
And I started drinking Poppy. I had it like it was just a complimentary thing at some event that I was at, and I was like, oh, I like that. And I read the ingredients. I was like, oh, I'm okay with that. And I, like you, Cheryl, I find myself, if I have one, for some reason I need to have a second one. I'm okay after two. I don't feel like I need a third,
Yeah.
but I'm like, okay, now I want one more for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no caffeine in them. I sadly have been mostly without caffeine for several decades because I get migraines. And the first thing they told me to do was cut out caffeine. And I do see that even if I just have what would be the equivalent of 1/8 of a cup of caffeine, if I do that, I can do it like one day, I'm okay, even two maybe. But if I hit a third day, the fourth day, I end up with a migraine. So I could use that as my. I don't know how you wouldn't survive me, Miguel. We couldn't have the same life.
It's funny, and everybody is different. Let me share this one story that I tell a lot of parents with kids with ADHD, or who maybe they're adults now. But starting things is really hard for us.
Yes.
And doing things in a vacuum is really hard for us. And if you have a child, grandchild, whatever, with ADHD and the parents are fighting with them all the time to clean their rooms. You know, maybe they want to bring someone over and you say, well, you know, Johnny can come over once you clean your room. And you think you're encouraging them to clean their room, only to find out that those of us with ADHD, we don't do delayed gratification at all. We have a hard time with it completely. We have a hard time with time, right? So delayed gratification is hard. But if you say you want to invite 2 or 3 friends over, but you can invite one, but the first thing you have to do once they come over is clean your room. You let them go into their room together and clean the room. Even if one of them is playing a video game, your child with ADHD can now clean the room because there's someone in the room with them. And if you don't have another kid to come in, you go in there. You take your bag of laundry into their room and you fold clothes while they clean their room. And it's not a fight anymore. And why is that? It's because working together, it's called body doubling. And for some reason, it works. It just works. And so there's a lot of different tools out there, a lot of ways you can skin this cat. Forgive me, the Betty Whites of the world, for using that phrase. You know, and especially, I mean, I'm looking at my friend Sandra here. Can I share too much of your life? Okay. Sandra has a teenage daughter. Sandra is approaching that age where her hormones are starting to go out of control again. She's got a daughter who's approaching that age where her hormones aren't in control yet, right? And they both have ADHD. Oh my goodness. You know, I'm so sorry, Sandra, you know? So yeah, I mean, don't do this alone. That's my.
Yes.
And yeah. And Megan, I was going to tell you that I told everybody, if the time doesn't work for you, register. And we'll get you the recording. So was I right to say that?
Yes, that works. Anyone that isn't a member, that's where we normally put the recordings, is in our membership community. We'll figure out a way to provide it to anyone that registered and wasn't able to attend. So it's not a problem at all. And you and your timing is fantastic. We have about 4 minutes left. Thank you all. You can. Yeah, I was going to turn it back over to you.
Okay. I want to say this. So I've been like Megan said, we've been friends for 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'm thinking it's approaching 3, something like that. But so she and I have talked a lot, and I love this organization. It's WSBA. And it was, as she said, originally just a local networking group. And Megan's made a commitment to really look at expanding that to be nationwide. Even though we'll allow some people from the UK in just because we like them. Sandra. But she's going to work with the team. And she's told me that she's going to work on committing to have more virtual events. So please, please, please take a moment, take a look at WSBA and see if this is a place that's maybe the right fit for you. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Gail. No, that was great. Thank you. So WSBA, our mission is to help women and businesses grow and thrive. That is why we exist. That is the purpose. So we've now built out, we do at least 3, and we're working towards 4 virtual events every month in our effort to bring in more people so that we can have more perspectives, more knowledge, more community. The thing that sort of sets us apart from a lot of other business or networking organizations is that we are business and community, and that community part is really important to us. We have in-person events, we have the virtual events, we have 4 annual events that we're really excited about because we've been building those out as well. In the spring, we do Trailblazers, and Trailblazers is all about doing the hard, scary, uncomfortable things trailblazing. I think I am in a virtual room full of trailblazers, frankly. I feel like just from the little bit I've heard from each of you, and I certainly know Gail, you're a pile of trailblazers, so that's fantastic. And it's just, how do you do that? How do you make the decision? How do you make the leap? How do you persist through it? Has everybody here persisted through something difficult in doing that trailblazing thing? Yeah, we have all done that. And then we do Apex in the fall. We actually just had our Apex conference, and that is just, we're very literal, right? Trailblazers is about being a trailblazer. Apex is about reaching the apex, optimizing, getting really, really good, scaling the thing that you're doing. And then we do our Reflect and Renew cruise, which is going to, we actually only have a few days left for that. It is going to sail out of Fort Lauderdale. So if you're in some place that's cold in February, like I am, and you want to go someplace warm and do some reflection, renewal, and connection with other people, because on a cruise, have you ever been on like a trip where you made a relationship, you met somebody and they turned into somebody that you then know for the rest of your life? So being able to create those kinds of connections are one of the reasons why we're doing it on a boat. Plus, I mean, it's a cruise. So it's the Royal Caribbean out of Fort Lauderdale, February 6th through the 9th. It's on Liberty of the Seas. We recently found out that we will not be able to get more rooms because it's such a popular cruise that they have a waiting list. And as soon as the timeline that they gave us is over, they're going to snatch back any space we have left. And then finally, we have our celebration gala. Very excited to have that. That will be in March, and it's an opportunity to get dressed up and celebrate. So the idea of these 4 events is to kind of go through 4 of the main parts of our journey together, right? Being a trailblazer, scaling and optimizing, reflecting, renewing, connection is in everything we do. And the one thing that I think people sometimes forget to do intentionally is celebrate. So we decided to have that celebration gala. One of the other things that we do, we have our reach is to thousands of people every month on our social media, and we are a platform just like this. Everything we do is a platform for our members. So if it's something that you're interested in, I'd love to talk to you more about it. You can go to yourwsba.org and just learn a little bit about us, where we came from, kind of our roots, and where we're going. We offer a lot of membership benefits. We have the social media. We also have a lot of business tools that we offer. We have these kinds of events in addition to our in-person events. So if you have anyone that would be a good speaker, you can just reach out to me directly. I'm president@yourwsba.org, and suggest them. We would love to have them on. In addition to the virtual speaker series, which is the 3rd Tuesday of every month, on the 1st Tuesday of every month, same time, we do a work on your business workshop. So if you know anybody that would be good for either of those, please let me know. If any of you are interested in being a speaker for us, please just let me know. And since we're talking about the Tuesdays, I'll tell you the 2nd Tuesday is our membership meeting, where we talk about all of the benefits. And our 4th Tuesday, we're building out a roundtable. So we'll be starting a 4th Tuesday roundtable so that we can talk about things that interest the people that are there every Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining. Gail, that was fantastic. Everybody, let's just go ahead and unmute, and let's do a real applaud, like a real, so she can hear it. Yay!
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you all. Any final comments, Gail, before we wrap it up?
No, just thank you, everybody. And, keep on going. You are all you need to be.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.